Truth.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
So I want to dedicate this lesson to my grandfather, who just turned 94 today.
Mazel tov.
80 years since the camps. He went in at 13, came out at 18. And he said the one thing that kept him going was that he wanted to be able to get married and have children and to name them after all the people that he lost. And Baruch Hashem, he had children, 3 children. My mom was the youngest. And named them after all of them. Now, interestingly, people always ask, like, what's the schut that you have that you became Baal Tshuva? And I don't really know, to be honest with you. But I do know that my grandfather named my mother after the only religious person in his family in Poland. And he was actually a shamish. And he was very, very simple, very connected, very believing Jew. And he used to spend a lot of time at shul, just shamishing around. And, this class is for him. And it's going to be very connected as well, because he was my inspiration and has been my inspiration for a lot of my life. And especially when I have been through difficult times, I always think about him, because whatever you're going through in the face of Shoah, in the face of a Holocaust, is nothing. And even though it might feel like a Shoah, to know that he actually went through one and he got out, how can you give up? So this is for my grandma. And Bezrat Hashem, tonight's class should give everybody chizuk. This is a very important and this is a very fundamental teaching of Rabbi Nachman. This specific one right here that we're going to do tonight is a very famous teaching. And it's one of the keys to living a good life. If you know how to do this thing that he's about to speak about, you could live a good life. I didn't know how to do this thing before I met Rabbi Nachman, before I encountered his teachings, before I started to bring these teachings into my life. And therefore, half of my life, which was the majority of my life, was spent in a very bad place, in a very dark place. And we're going to get to the reason why. And I think a lot of people are going to relate to that as well, at least at their level. But we're going to see now that one of the reasons why we struggled with going through these different difficulties and challenges in our life is because we don't realize what they are. Just as a little bit of a preface, people think that suffering comes from the chaos of their lives. But suffering actually comes from not realizing there's a Seder to it. When the Arizal teaches that when Hashem created the worlds, he first created Olam HaTohu, a world of chaos. And then he created Olam HaTikun, a world of rectification, a world of healing, a world of remedy. What was the whole difference between the world of Tohu and the world of Tikkun? Very simply, one of them was not Beseder and the other one was Beseder. One of them had no order and the other one had order. Just knowing that there is Seder in your life and that everything has meaning and that there's a purpose to what you're going through, this itself is the tikkun for whatever it is that you're experiencing, okay? And this is why Pesach is Geula, because you think to yourself, Seder, that sounds pretty boring, no? I've been a slave in Mitzrayim for over 200 years. We know Mitzrayim comes from the word suffering. And what was the end of their suffering? Seder. They had a Seder. How is that the end of suffering? However, the whole entire ikar of suffering is the fact that we don't see any Seder in it. We don't see any purpose in it. And like a very famous Hasidic master said, that we only call it Pesach, we only call it Seder after we left. But while we went through it, it didn't feel like Seder. But the whole entire essence of the Geula, the redemption, is only after the fact. You understand why your student who usually sits next to you is really doing a million different things. Nothing to do with the class. No, I'm just kidding. You're able to understand how everything is really Beseder. Okay? So this is what we're learning right now. You ready? Now, Rabbi Nachman is teaching us that the key to Teshuvah is to be able to wait. Just like the fall always comes from not waiting. And you'll notice that all of the worst decisions you ever made in your life came from impulse. And in our generation, where we've all been diagnosed with impulsive disorder, So we're in for a lot of negative decisions, a lot of negative ramifications from our decisions. And the fact that while we have this very impulsive nature, we also have more substances at our disposal, more media at our disposal, more opportunities to do destructive acts at our disposal. It's not a good combination. Okay. So this class is really important for our generation, which is how do I get through the times when I don't feel like I have tools? How do I get through the times when I feel like I have no Yeshua? I don't see good in my life. I don't see God in my life. So Rabbi Nachman says, you need to learn how to be silent. That when a person comes over to you and he makes fun of you, or a person comes over and embarrasses you, a person comes over and corrects you, and you don't respond, this is the beginning of teshuvah. Why is that? Because the essence of teshuvah is bitul of yesh, to nullify one's ego. Where does a person show for real that I've actually done it? It's one thing to do Ibodedut for an hour and I disconnect from the world and all of a sudden I come out, I feel high, I feel very, very close to Hashem. It's another thing I come home and my parents say, Ma pitom, you're 25 years old, why aren't you married yet? Oh, it's coming, and you're spending all this time in the field, you should be going on dates. And all of a sudden, all of the, what the heck is that? All of the unbelievable progress you made out in the field seems like it came for nothing. And your bones start rattling and your heart starts pulsating and you don't know how to respond. You don't know how to react. You're like, play it cool, play cool. You're like, Dad, I hate you. What are you doing? And then you just explode. So you didn't do tshuva yet. Why? Because tshuva means bitul of the ego, bitul of yesh. I'm silent. What is the essential tikkun? That I get to the highest level of tshuva, that not only do I not respond, I actually don't feel anything in my heart. I'm quiet in my mouth and I'm quiet in my heart. Or let's say, for instance, newlyweds. All of a sudden, my wife is what are you laughing about? Why is it constantly on me about everything that I do and everything that I look like and everything that I say?
No ego left.
Yeah. And what happens? So this is very, very difficult on the ego. Look, he's listening all the way in the back. He needs to make sure he's prepared to go home. Okay. What's going to happen to me? Yeah. So, yeah. So there's one level that Rabbi Nachman's going to get you at first. This is the beginning of tshuva. That is, you go home and instead of being like, I pay the bills, you just don't respond.
You get yelled at for not responding.
You're right, honey. I'm sorry.
Don't tell me I'm right. Don't call me honey.
Okay. But what's the highest level? That ultimately you literally don't feel anything from it because you have completely nullified your ego. Okay. Now you're one with Hashem. Okay. So the first step is silence. But now Rabbi Nachman's going to say, how do I get from here to there? There is a very narrow bridge, like Rabbi Nachman teaches. Ha'olam kulo. I never went to school for saying. Gesher tzar me'on. Oh my gosh. Gesher tzar me'on. I'm silent here and here. Thank you for that. The whole entire world is a very narrow bridge. From where? From one stage of teshuvah to the next stage of teshuvah. The Rabbi Nachman says we should be doing teshuvah al teshuvah. How do I get from silence of the mouth to silence of the heart? And then I'm one with Hashem. That's a bridge. You need to cross the lungs. It's very narrow to get from the heart to the mouth. Okay? So now Rabbi Nachman's going to give us the answer.
We can't see your face and we feel threatened. Thank you.
When a person genuinely wants to begin to walk the paths of tshuva, thank you.
It's not for you.
It's always for Ashkenazi when you get egg matzot. I know it's for me. Okay. When a person genuinely wants to walk the path of teshuvah, when a person wants to really connect to Hashem, he has said to himself, I've done enough of that life. It was fun while it lasted. I feel a little bit old now. I feel a little bit limited now. I feel a little bit like I capped out on this. And I want to now actually connect to Hashem. How do you walk the paths of Teshuvah? You ready for this?
Someone just asked me to send an Uber here.
Tzarich liot baki b'halacha. Silence. That's the way. You need to become an expert in halacha. There is a very famous stigma amongst Hasidim that they don't keep halacha. In fact, I heard when someone was told he was going to go to Uman, he's Ashkenazi, he's from New Jersey. He's like in his 50s in a group of very, very chashuv, very traditional Jews. And he said, what are you doing for Rosh Hashanah? Where are you going to be? He said, I'm going to be in Uman. Uman? So you're going to pray what? Like Shacharit at 12 o'clock? Are you excited? He said, actually, Breslovers pray nates. Huh? Yeah. Actually, Rabbi Nachman said, what does it mean to be a Breslover? That I keep the Shulchan Aruch. That the essence of being Breslov is the essence of being Jewish. That I keep the Shulchan Aruch. Now, just for anybody who doesn't know, and just as a little bit of a primer, because it's an interesting topic, how long have we had the Shulchan Aruch for? What does this mean? It means a fully set table. There's a commentary on the Torah that when Moshe Rabbeinu went to give the Torah over to the Jewish people, Hashem said, place it before them. It's a very weird way to say, give it over the Torah. You should say, teach it to them. What does it mean, place it before them? So Rashi says one of the explanations is like a Shulchan Aruch, that it should be a fully set table. They shouldn't have to work for it. Like when you come into a Bukharian home, and as soon as you walk in, there's already food laid out across the whole entire table, that you see the branzini fish squirming from one end to the other. Yeah? So this is the concept of a Shulchan Aruch. I don't have to work for that food. It's not like when I go home and I have to work to get my chicken with just salt and pepper. Here we have the whole thing fully set. This is actually a hint to the days of Mashiach as well, but that's for another time. So Rav Yosef Cairo was a student who lived in the time of the Arizal. They both lived in Sfat. Rav Yosef Cairo was a genius in halacha, which means halicha, to be able to walk, to know how to walk. That halacha, which we know, we usually think of as Jewish law, but it really means to know how to walk, to know how to move, to know how to groove, right? This guy knows how to groove, or it's just the hat. It's throwing me off. Okay. Where did it come from? So it's actually a very controversial start because there is not supposed to be any Shulchan Aruch. There's actually supposed to not be any Gemara or any oral Torah which is written. Because when Hashem gave Moshe Rabbeinu the Torah, he said to him, here's half of it, I want you to write it down. Here's the other half, I want you to give it over to Yoshua ben Nun. And I want Yoshua ben Nun to give it over to his students. And I want his students to give it over to their students. But I don't ever want you to write it down. What's the benefit of this? Can anybody guess?
You must strive to learn.
You must strive to continue to learn. Yeah, very good. Right, very good. You have to really know it if you're going to give it over. What else?
Who's the question? You're always dependent. You're always dependent on nullifying yourself to a teacher.
Oh, you always need a teacher because he always has to give it over to you. Very good. Anybody else?
Order.
Order. What's the
What? Follow order.
But what does that have to do with the question I just asked you?
What was the question?
No.
Again, the question is, what's the benefit of having half the Torah be written and you have to study it in written form, and the other half you're not allowed to? It's a sword to ever write it down. You must teach it over. And by the way, it's the only way to know how to do the written stuff. What's the benefit?
You have to think.
You have to think. That's also a good thing. We're not used to that.
Share.
You have to share. Also, we're not used to that. So a lot of things we teach our kids. What else? You have parents who are constantly educating their children. Because if the only way for your child to learn Torah is for you to teach it to him, so you have to be with them a lot. It's also a good thing. Okay. What else? Anybody? Nope.
Identifies who you are.
Identifies who you are. It's a little deeper. How's that?
Since you know the laws of Torah, automatically assume that you're Jewish.
So okay. So because you're speaking over, people are going to know what you know. Okay, very good. So I'll tell you something like this. A person who's constantly saying over things about Hashem is really close to Hashem. One of the reasons why Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu that half of this should be given over, constantly spoken over, is because the key to it being in your heart and not just in your mind is speech. If you're constantly talking about Hashem, then you are connected to Hashem, because speech is the key to connection.
Even an atheist, theoretically, because all day he's bashing Hashem, so it's like the opposite of. He's still connected, meaning all day he's talking about Hashem.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
It's not really an atheist, just to let you know.
Okay. So that's it. Now, what ended up happening that the Torah was actually written down in the form of the Gemara, that we have over 60 tractates of Gemara, which is much, much longer than the written Torah, much longer, and could take a lifetime or many lifetimes to read it. The reason is because we were going to go into Chutz La'aretz. We were going to go into exile. And the sages came together and they understood that it could be for the first time, parents are not going to be able to teach their children. They might not be in the same place. So they had to make a very difficult decision. And I just said that, not in English. I'm going to do teshuvah, be silent. They had to make a very difficult decision. And they had to write down the entire oral Torah that had been given since the times of Moshe Rabbeinu to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, to Rabbeinu HaKadosh, the first Rabbeinu HaKadosh. He wrote the entire thing down in the form of the Mishnah. And then ultimately, we weren't able to understand this as well. And they had to write down all of the understandings of the actual oral law. This was given over in the form of the Gemara, okay? Comes along 1,000 years later, a very, very, very special Sephardi Jew. His name is Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, the Rambam. That the Rambam lived in Spain, he lived in Mitzrayim, he lived in Eretz Yisrael possibly. And when he was there, he realized that people were not capable of knowing how to keep the Torah simply by learning it anymore. That we just did not have the tools anymore to learn the written Torah, to learn the oral Torah, and to know what to do. So he made a crazy decision, which now we look back on, and every Sephardi is busy with this study every day and can't imagine what it would be like without it. And the Gemara says that Hashem is only in the place of the 4 Dalet Amot of Halakha. And he decided to write what's called the Mishnah Torah. The Mishnah Torah is where he took all of the written Torah, all of the oral Torah, every single thing that was ever given over, and he codified, this is what you do, Lamaisa. Tell me what I need to do. Okay? Beautiful. It's like the Sephardi dream, right? Tell me what I need to do. I don't need to hear about all the stuff in between. I like to know what I need to do. Bottom line. Give me the bottom line. So he made the first bottom line, what to do. It's called the Mishnah Torah. At the time, they burned his books because the Rambam, even though we don't talk about this part of him, he had a lot of holy chutzpah. He not only made the Mishnah Torah, he said, from now on until Mashiach comes, nobody needs to learn the Gemara anymore. You can simply learn my Mishnah Torah and you're good to go. Obviously, after thousands of years of learning Gemara, this was not looked on in the most positive way. They burned his books. They called him a heretic. Yeah, he was in danger for most of his life. He was always on the run. He was an amazing human being. And ultimately, like many people who are trailblazers, after they pass away and they're not a threat anymore, then we go, oh, that was a pretty amazing thing that he did. Yeah? And we start to learn it. All of a sudden, there was a student of his student who taught him halakha, and his name was Rabbi Yosef Cairo. He wrote, like the Mishnah Torah, he wrote the Shulchan Aruch, okay? But the Shulchan Aruch was so comprehensive, it was so special, it encompassed 3 major poskim. The Rambam was one of them. He took 3, and whatever the majority decided, that's how he paskined the halakha. So if the Rambam and another teacher come along, and they say we hold like this, and the Rosh says like this, we do like the first 2. You should come back, by the way. You're going to like the end of the lesson. So that's what they did. Whatever the majority did, that's how we paskin. Okay. Now, interestingly, on a side note, it happens to be that 2 of the 3 people were Sephardic, and one of them was Ashkenazi. So you can guess how we paskin most of the time. That's why the Ashkenazim have very different laws than we do. Okay. So this is how we got the Shulchan Aruch. Now comes hundreds of years later, a few hundred years later, and there's a Rebbe, his name is Rebbe Nachman of Breslov. And Rebbe Nachman says like this. He says in Likutey Moharan, Torah Chet, and also I believe Torah Samech Bet, he says in Sichot Aran, he actually says in his living testimony right before he passed away when he left his will, this thing, you must learn every day without fail the Shulchan Aruch. Every single day. He doesn't say how much. He doesn't say at what length. He just say you must learn it every single day. What's the simple reason why? Because it's impossible to know what Hashem wants you to do if you don't. Okay? What is a little bit of a deeper reason why?
Because Tikkun, you said.
Because the Arizal teaches, and Rabbi Nachman brings down, and that's what Benny's referring to, that the learning of halacha creates what's called birur. There is a concept of, in halacha and in the oral Torah, of separating, that you need to separate the good from the bad. Okay? Halacha, what is it? Hashem saying what is prohibited to do and what is permitted to do. So it's like a song. You have a lot of things you're not allowed to do. Those are like the notes you choose not to pick. And then you have things that you are allowed to do that are good for you. Those are the good notes. Now all of a sudden you have a song. It's called halacha. Now when you learn that song, you automatically separate good from the bad. And the main tikkun of this world, says the Arizal, is birur, is separation. It's havdalah. And the essential way to perform havdalah in this world is through learning the halacha. Okay? This is the reason why Rabbi Nachman says we should be busy with it every single day. Now, I'll tell you what it looks like for me just practically. It's not an extensive learning seder. I literally, if I have the schut, I wake up early in the morning. I do chatzot. I learn Gemara. And then I do like 2 halachot in the Shulchan Aruch. It literally can take you 5 minutes. Okay? If I don't have the schut, I'll do it at night. But I do my very best that I don't miss a day, just like I don't miss a day of Hippolytus. Many people know that Rabbi Nachman is very big on Hippolytus, and he says it's very good every day for 1 hour to talk to Hashem, but they don't know that he actually said you cannot go a day without learning the Shulchan Aruch. It was an actual commandment by him. It was a mitzvah by him. Okay? So therefore, for anybody who's here who has not taken this part on themselves yet, this is a good time. It's Yort Omer to do something new.
Does Yalkut Yosef count as Shulchan Aruch?
Yalkut Yosef counts as Shulchan Aruch. However, he meant the Shulchan Aruch, period.
It's the actual
Shulchan Aruch. Yeah. So if you're capable of it, to learn the actual Shulchan Aruch, and if you don't feel like you are, to learn something more modern.
Kids or Shulchan Aruch work as well?
It works, but part of the tikkun of it is the head grinding in it. So if you have the Kitzer Shulchan Aruch, so you're coming to the basic law at the end of the day without reading any of the commentaries, so you lose some of the juice of the learning. Yeah, because part of the juice of this steak is that you're busy trying to understand the halacha.
What do we go by?
You follow Rav Ovadia,
Just to learn.
but you learn the Shulchan Aruch. The best thing that you could possibly do if you're really committed, and this is an amazing seder, it'll take a little bit more than 5 minutes, but it won't take much more, is let's say you take 2 halachot a day, and those 2 halachot, you learn what the Shulchan Aruch says, and then you learn what Rav Ovadia paskins on that. Okay? Yeah. And that way you know what I do now, but you also learn and you follow Rabbi Nachman's advice to learn the Shulchan Aruch inside. Okay? Rabbi Nachman famously said that my Likutey Moharan, you can make whatever chidushim that you want, meaning novel understandings in it. I give you permission. It's actually very good for you. However, yeah, it's also tikkun. But by the Shulchan Aruch, you don't need to make any novelties of understanding. You simply have to learn it because it's perfect. Okay? Now, Rabbi Nachman says like this. Now that seems to be the basic understanding, that he's telling us and he's encouraging us that for us to be able to do teshuvah, meaning to come back to Hashem, we have to learn halacha, because it's the only way to know what Hashem wants. Okay? But on a deeper level, what is the gematria of halacha? Anybody?
Same gematria as the Yitzhak's name?
No. What is it? 60 is close. Can
5?
you going 65 is better. You want to do the math together?
Yeah.
Hey,
is
5.
Hey is 5.
30.
30.
Kuf is
55.
55.
Yeah. Hey is
Hey,
60.
67.
Okay, good. Take it easy.
60, yeah.
60, good. 60 is also the gematria of
Sama.
Keli, a vessel. Okay. The Torah was given, and the Torah, the root of the word Torah is or. Torah is a light. And a mitzvah is a ner. A mitzvah is a candle. What is a mitzvah? It's a keli, it's a vessel. One of the reasons why when you learn Torah and you feel high, you feel excited, you feel like you're elevating, is because the Torah itself is a light. Sometimes the reason why when you do the mitzvot, you don't feel Hashem when you do it, is because the mitzvah itself is a keli, it's a vessel. So it doesn't have the light in it. Okay?
So that's why Rabbi Nachman says to learn Gemara every day,
Why?
because it's
You
it
mean halacha
reads.
every day.
I mean halacha, right? Talmud,
Because it's a vessel.
right?
It's a vessel for the light.
Right.
Very good, because Rabbi Nachman says you need to be busy learning my Torah every day. That's the light. And you also need to learn halakha. That way you have a vessel. Thank you so much. Okay. So simply put, halakha is a keli. It's a vessel. Now listen to what he says. Mitzarich liot lo shnei bikiut. You need two types of expertise. Okay? Hainu baki baratzo. You need to be expert in running. Baki bashov. And you need to be expert at returning. I'm going to tell you something very, very deep. You ready? There's a disorder which they have diagnosed. It's in the Diagnosed Statistic Manual, the DSM. I think they're up to the 5 now. Yeah, it's called bipolar disorder. When I was in my midst of all my mental health stuff, that was a diagnosis that was thrown about. However, I didn't really meet the criteria because I never got as high as they say someone who's bipolar does, and I never got as, well, actually I got as low, but I never got as high, okay? At least not naturally. So I was not diagnosed with bipolar disorder. What is bipolar disorder? Bipolar is that you have two ways of experiencing life. One of them is very, very high, that you feel a tremendous amount of joy, excitement, exuberance, you feel grandeur, you feel elevated, yeah? And then your other state of existence is, I feel depressed, I feel low, I can't get up from my bed, I can't move, I'm sad, I'm crying, I feel horrible about my
Isn't
life.
that a function that all of us have?
But that's
Oh,
normal, Rabbi.
one second.
Optimism
One second.
versus pessimism.
Bipolar people have very high extremes.
So it's the
Huh?
extremes of it.
They have very
It's
extreme.
the extremes of it. When does it become called a disorder? When what is normal becomes extreme. Meaning there's no parv there. It's literally just a mamish flying or a mamish in hell. Okay? Now, what they have come to new diagnosis is what's called bipolar 2. That is, you don't get as high and you don't get as low, but you're still between two poles constantly. Okay. Now, what they're even saying, some clinicians, and what Rabbi Nachman is really saying is what you're all saying, that in truth, we're all like this, that we're all bipolar. And what Rabbi Nachman is coming to teach us, and like the clinicians are saying, that it's really a range. It's not about you are, you're not, but it's about everybody's different. Everybody's holding differently on the range. For some people, the flying back and forth is more intense, and for some people, it's less intense.
People, they're putting people on antipsychotics.
Well, that's not an antipsychotic you need that for, but what we're going to find out is that Rabbi Nachman is saying that in truth, we're all bipolar.
Why is it? Because the function of the goof is the one extreme and the function of the neshama is the opposite extreme.
That's right. That's
And
exactly
the more
right.
you invest in your goof, the more extreme your bipolar for the opposite is,
100%.
and vice versa with the neshama.
100%.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So the reason is because, like Benny's saying, that you have two elements within you. You have a part of you which is pure godliness, and you have a part of you which is pure physicality. The essence of physicality is it's drawn to physicality. The essence of the goof is it wants food, it wants drink, it wants pleasure, it wants honor, it wants cottage cheese, right?
Whoa.
Well, I just said that I didn't say you wanted it. I'm just saying the essence of the soul is it wants Hashem. Okay. Now it's not just that element that's the reason why we're running and returning. The other reason is because of a very deep thing that's called an or yashar and an or choser. There is in Kabbalah, it's taught something called a direct light and something called a returning light. A direct light goes from above to below. Simply put, it's Pesach. Okay? Pesach is called a direct light. It's a light that you get from Hashem. You didn't do anything for. It's a free gift. And it's very intense. That's called an Or Yashar. But then you have Sfirat Omer. That light is taken from you, but there is an impression left from that light. And for the next 49 days now, you need to get that light back, but through you earning it. That's called Or Choser, the returning light.
Relationships.
It's a relationship. That's running and returning. Now we, especially in our generation, we are so excited about feeling good and we always want to feel high. But the issue is that the way that Hashem created us is we're constantly going back and forth between feeling good and feeling bad, between feeling high and feeling low, between feeling happy and feeling lacking. And what we do in our generation is we run away from feeling bad and we do as much as we can to get high again as soon as possible. Yeah. In prior generations, you couldn't just call the local weed guy, yeah, and he just like drives by in his cab and gives you gummies. Yeah. Brownies. Yeah, very good. Okay, you guys don't have to tell me all your personal
Or
stuff.
macaroons.
Yeah, or macaroons. Hey, what's in these guys over here? These overlanders. Okay. Yeah. You also, if you wanted to get drunk, you would have to make like the alcohol for like a year in order for you to be able to drink it. You couldn't just go to the local CVS or the local I don't know. I haven't got it. The local gas station and go get a few beers, right? Or you can't just go online and start watching whatever type of pornography fits your fancy. Yeah. Okay, take it easy over there with your overlanders over here. It's getting you excited.
They're really good.
Yeah, I'm sure. Can I have these?
That was a very bad timing on that.
Yeah. Okay. Meaning to say that on the one hand, we have less ability, so to speak, to cope with when we feel low. And on the other hand, we have more access to everything which is bad for us in that time. So we have a very, very difficult challenge on our hands. And this is why we need the Tzaddik Yesod Olam. Because when you don't have Rabbi Nachman, you don't know how to shove. You maybe think you know how to run. You probably also don't know how to run. But you for sure don't know how to return. And this is the reason why we have such tremendous issues with depression, with anxiety, why we have such low self-esteem, because we do not realize that in fact, life is not just about running. It's about running and returning. And it's okay to feel low. And it's
always running away from something.
Yeah.
We're never trying to actually deal
with what's going on.
Yeah.
But the reason why we don't want to deal with what's going on, because we don't think it's good for us.
It doesn't feel good.
Because it doesn't feel good, but it's because we don't know it's good for you. Because I give this example all the time. But if you knew that this episode in your life, let's say you're in a shove, which is I'm returning, I'm in a difficult time in my life, I'm feeling low, I'm feeling sluggish. If you know that this thing itself is going to make you elevate far beyond anything you ever experienced before, either spiritually, financially, emotionally, psychologically. So not only will you be able to go through it, but to some degree, you can actually be happy during it.
The problem is you never think it's going to end
Right. Why don't you think it's going to end?
because you don't see the light.
No, because you don't know about run and return. Because you don't know it's normal to go down, and you don't know for 100% fact it's only in order to go back up higher.
And everyone goes through it.
Everyone goes through it.
So you're saying the reason why a person gets depressed is because he doesn't have that there's a way that this is for the sake of his up. He just thinks that this is life and zero.
Yeah, and then it's terrifying, like he's saying.
Right. Because you can't forecast. You can't see.
You have no idea what's going to happen.
Right.
This is the
And
worst I
this
ever
is-
felt.
And it's game over right
Yeah,
now.
Yeah,
This is it.
100%. So this comes Rabbi Nachman to tell you that this is actually the greatest thing that can happen to you, because this is what's necessary for your next descent. That every Yerid is for the sake of an Aliyah. That doesn't mean you're going to feel hunky-dory during the descent, but it means that because you know, because you believe in the tzaddik, that this fall is only for the sake of going back up. That's what it's only ever for. So it must be that this is going to end. And not only is it going to end, but when it ends, it's going to be even sweeter than it was before. Okay? So 1 second. This demands that you must be baki baratzo. You must know, be expert, not just know, not just have some type of command of. You mamish need to be an expert of running baki bashov and baki in returning. Where do we get this concept from? Where does Rabbi Nachman get this concept from? He gets it from the Zohar. The Zohar says, "Zaka'ah man da'ayil v'naftik." Ashrei, meritorious, fortunate is the person who knows how to ascend and descend. He knows how to go up and how to go down. He knows how to be bipolar. He knows how to do it. He's an expert in it. He doesn't run away from it. He doesn't think that it's a problem. He doesn't think that this is what's getting in the way of everything in his life. He doesn't think that his life is over. He realizes that I am running and now I'm returning. And now I'm running and now I'm returning. Sometimes I have my Batman cape on. Sometimes I take it off and I have to act like a normal human being. That's the concept up and down. Very good.
So is that what halacha is? It's kind of like putting you back into this world type of thing.
Oh,
So the person could sit and learn, everything's amazing, but then when ish hits the fan type of thing.
oh, very good. So that's what we're going to see. That the essence of teshuva is not what you do when you're up, but what you do when you're down. And we're going to see in a second, okay? And where do we see the essence of teshuva? Where is this concept of entering and exiting in Tanakh? Daniel, give me the pasuk and tell him.
Kind, no?
David HaMelech! Who knows teshuva like David? Nobody. Who knows how to fall like David? Nobody. Who knows how to get back up even higher like David? Nobody. You're making business deal?
I just read this today.
Okay. Oh, Rabbi Akiva also, but you need to mute yourself. It's true. We're going to get to him in a second. Rabbi Akiva also. The David HaMelech says that when I ascend to Shemayim, Shamata, there you are. That's the concept of Bechinat Ayo. It's the concept of ascent. Bechinat Baki Beratzo. I'm an expert in running to Hashem. That I'm running up to Shemayim, I'm running to Hashem, I'm running after Hashem, there you are. What's the very next thing that David HaMelech says? This sounds, right? If you didn't know any better, if you read Tehillim, you would think it's the diary of somebody who's bipolar. Because what's the very next thing that he says? Va'ai siya sha'o. And when I make my bed in hell, hinecha. Here you are.
We love that stuff.
That right before it's, I'm ascending to heaven. I'm going all the way up to Shemayim. Hashem, there you are. And in the very next moment, I'm making my bed in the hell of my life.
Psalms 139.
He was just eating matzah. Couldn't say.
Very good. Very good. Good, Daniel. Beautiful. Here you are. So now I'm going to ask you a question, something very beautiful, something that the Biur Likutey adds. Okay, this is a commentary on Likutey Moharan. Listen to what he says. So beautiful. I think it's Avram ben Nachman, I believe.
It's Rav Nassan's student.
It's Rav Nachman's grandson.
Yeah.
Okay, so he says like this. You are there, meaning I'm going up to Shemayim, I'm high with Hashem. You're in that place that I'm started doing Hipodadut. I start learning Rabbeinu's Torah.
You're happy.
I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm looking forward to the next day. I'm feeling good. I started saying thank you instead of complaining. Yeah. I started speaking to Hashem instead of being silent. And all of a sudden I feel high. That's called I'm ascending to Shemayim. It says there you are. Now the Biur Likutey says, what is there the concept of? What's there Lashon of? It's distant. It's distant. There you are. There's over there. There's not here. Comes David HaMelech to tell you a secret. But when you make your bed in hell, like I know very, very well, that I was in a bed, mamish in a psych ward, and I was more depressed than I've ever been in my entire life, and I've had many depressive episodes. That in that bed, which is hell, here you are. That the Gemara says that the Shekhinah is with the sick person. He's hovering over his head. And this is the Iker of Natan Zal says that the mitzvah are going to visit the sick. Why is it a mitzvah for you to go visit the sick? Because the Shekhinah is always there. Because Hashem is always with the person who's suffering the most. And this is the essential aspect of what Rabbi Nachman is trying to teach us. That in some ways, even though we're craving that experience of being high, of running after Hashem, of trying to get close to Him, that person needs to know that he's nowhere near Hashem, and he's always distant, and he always has more to run. Rabbi Nachman says that a person, no matter how high he gets close to Hashem, he needs to know that he hasn't even started yet, because there you are. He's infinite. There's no end. But what happens when you're in hell? What happens when you're suffering? What happens when you're like my grandfather, you're in the Holocaust? What happens like me, that you're in the psych ward and you feel like your life is over?
Stop running.
So Hashem, here you are. Hashem, here you are. Not there you are.
Otherwise, there's no way to come out.
He's right here.
There's no way to come out if you don't know Hashem is here now.
Oh.
If you think He's there, you're always going to be in Yahush. How are you going to get the highest level? You're never over here.
So I thought to myself, who's the one who taught us this? It's in the Torah. That when the Jewish people got the whole Torah, they learned all the Shulchan Aruch, all the halakha. They said, how are we ever going to keep this? How are we going to do all these things? And they went into Yehush. And Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, this is not in heaven. This is very, very near to you. What was he trying to tell them? What did Moshe do before he got the Torah? He went up the mountain and down the mountain. He ascended and descended. He was Baki Baratzo, Baki B'Shov. And when he came down, what did he teach them? Ein shum yeyosh, ein shum yeyosh, ein shum yeyosh ba'olam kol. That was the Chiddush. What did Rabbi Nachman teach us after all of his hasagas of Elokut? That he reached to the Maseh Merkava, that he experienced revelations of Geula. And what was the main Gilui revelation that he revealed to us? That even when you're in hell, He's right there with you. He's right there with you. The Rabbi Nachman said that if I did a sin and I ended up in Gehenna, I wouldn't be upset for 1 second because Hashem is there also. I just run back to Him because Hashem's there as well. But what's the lesson for us in our life? That no matter what our struggles are, that you need to know that Hashem is with you there. He's here. Now you can't feel Him because He's hidden. So now we're getting a secret of how do you deal with these two different circumstances, why I struggled with it my whole life, and why everybody until they get to Rabbi Nachman also struggles with it. Because when you're running to Shemayim, that's called Torah, because Hashem's revealed to you. But when you're returning, when you don't see Hashem in your life, when you don't experience light in your life, so what type of or do you have? The or of Emunah. You have tefillah, you have hibodedut. That half of the time, right, I'm running after Hashem, I feel really good. But what do I do now when I'm struggling? So I'm trying to learn, but I can't. So what do? I feel horrible. I just give it all up. Because you don't understand, like Rabbi Nachman said, that the lip box, they say, learn, learn, learn. And the Hasidim, they say, pray, pray, pray. But I say, pray, learn, pray. There's a time for this, there's a time for that. You need to become a master at knowing when to do what. That when you're feeling high, go run after Hashem. Go learn His Torah. Go try to connect and elevate more spiritually. And when you're feeling low, go to the field, go to the forest, go to your car, go to your room, go to your closet, and pour your heart out to Hashem.
What if you do this every day?
You do this every day.
You do this every day, but you still go to
You
the
go
up and
through
down.
this process every single day,
Yeah.
many times a day. Many times a day. Pray, learn, pray. Pray, learn, pray.
Where you're just like in the middle,
No,
where it's like you don't feel like you're high, you feel like you're low. You just, you know what I mean?
no.
Is there a way to end the hell quicker?
Yes. You have to become an expert in running and returning. This is the key. When you don't know how to run and how to return, you'll stay in the place or you'll struggle when you transition to the other place. How do you move out of the hell sooner? By knowing that Hashem, here you are. And if Hashem, here you are, what am I going to do as soon as I start struggling?
You're gonna hang
Yes,
on
you don't
to
be
it.
afraid of
You're going to hang on to
challenge.
Emunah. And Rabbi Nachman says, what is Emunah? Tefillah. So what am I going to do when I feel bad? I'm going to talk to Hashem. The more, the sooner I'm going to talk to Hashem, the more and the sooner this is going to be over.
I got a question.
Yes.
Let's say a person always has Moharan and Bitachon 24/7, right? Isn't he always going to be in a happy state of mind?
Nobody has a moon and bitachon 24/7 at his level. You might have a moon and bitachon, period, and more than most people that when you fall in it, but you have to constantly be running and returning in your amuna. There needs to be times when Hashem is very clear to you, but you don't need a muna when you know Hashem. You need a muna when you don't know Hashem. You need to be going through difficulties in your life that necessitate that you don't feel Hashem at sometimes during your day, at sometimes during your week, sometimes during your year, sometimes during your life. What do you do then? Prior to this, you looked for every available natural remedy. You talk to your friends, you talk to your advisors, you talk to your bosses, you talk to your coworkers, you talk to your family members, you talk to the doctors, you talk to the psychiatrist, you talk to the therapist, you talk to yourself, probably not, but you talk to yourself, maybe eventually. So
That's why we say aye.
oh, you got it, Gabriel. Very good. Look at you. See, you look good on the outside and on the inside. He said, is that why you say aye? Where are you? Very good, because the answer is right here. When you say aye, when do you say aye? When you don't see Hashem. And as soon as you say, where are you? Hashem's going to say, I'm right here.
We compare the moon to the moon.
Right.
The moon is always
Waning.
Waxing and waning.
So it's a lot of light and then it's no light. It's back and forth.
Very good. You got it. That's us. We're like the moon. That's right. Very good. Beautiful. Okay.
So this is like hide and go seek.
Hide and go seek. Exactly. Beautiful. This is what I wanted to tell you guys, actually. I forgot. The Baal Shem Tov gathered all his students around. And in the past, you know, when they went for those fire discourses, they would say, the Gemara says like this. Abaye says like this. Rava says like this. He thinks like this. He thinks like that. And then there's the twist. Boom. And that's the discourse. When you came to the Baal Shem Tov, you went into another galaxy. He said, gather around. I want to tell you something. There was once a child. This child, he went out and he was playing games with his friends. And he was having such a good time. But then all of a sudden, he saw his dad in the woods. He goes, oh, Dad, Abba, Tati, hey, what's going on? And he said, hey, and he gives him a big smile. And then all of a sudden, someone throws the ball. He's like, get back in the game. And then he goes, oh, well, gets back in the game. He forgets, plays with his friends. All of a sudden, a little bit more time goes by. All of a sudden, he sees Dad again, smiling through the forest. Hey, Dad, what's going on? And he smiles back at him. I love you. It wasn't your childhood experience, I guess. And all of a sudden, he forgets and he starts playing games again. But then what ended up happening is he was getting older. So as he was getting older, he was getting more into the game that he was playing. Ultimately, he became a superstar at it, became very good at it. He got so into it and he got so good at it, he completely forgot his dad. So he just played the game the whole time. Until one day, he's playing and he's playing and he's playing, and he just felt really empty out of nowhere. He felt like something was missing. And he goes, oh my gosh, I haven't seen my dad in such a long time. And he turns around and he starts looking for him, but now he can't find him. So now he's running all through the woods to try and find him. And finally, his dad shows himself to him. And he tells him, my son, I'm here. He hugs him, talks to him. He says, okay, you can go back. He goes, no, I'm done. I'm tired. I don't want to do it anymore. I just want to be with you. Baal Shem Tov says that this is every Jew's life. That they go through a time in their life that they play the game of life. They go to work, they get married, they go to school, they hang out with their friends, they do drugs, they party, they club, this, that. But they feel a hole. And then they like go look for it a little bit, but all of a sudden everybody around them is not supporting them in it, saying it's fanatic, it's this, it's that. And all of a sudden you're like, maybe it's too much for me. Maybe this is like a little bit too much for me. Let me go back. And then I go back, and it's fun, I enjoy and whatever. But then I feel that hole again. But then one day you wake up and you're just like, I can't do it anymore. I want to find my dad. And the Baal Shem Tov says our entire life is like this, a game of hide and go seek. But what is really this whole thing? It's Ratzov V'Shov. It's running and returning. Where do we learn this concept of Ratzov V'Shov from? We get it from the Malachim. That Yechezkel had one of the greatest visions in history, but the Gemara says you're not allowed to learn it in certain circumstances. And he had tremendous, tremendous meditations and revelations. And one of the things that he saw, there was these chayot. There were these angels, these malachim, that they kept going up and down and up and down and up and down. Also, Yaakov's vision, he had the same thing. He saw the malachim, they were going up and down, up and down, up and down. So normally when we read this, we just think, okay, great. Like, that's what they do. They're going up and down. We don't think too much into it. But I want to tell you something very deep. This world is only one world. There's many worlds that exist, and they don't exist like past this world or behind this world. They exist parallel to this world. Parallel worlds. You heard of such a thing? Okay.
I'm always in it.
You're always in it. Okay, good. In this world, you're called Mike. In this world, you're called Daniel. In this world, you're called Benjamin. This is called Olam Asiyah. But in the world above this is not the world of action. This is the world that's called the Olam of Malachim. It's the world of angels. So what are you there? It's a world that exists parallel to this. It's corresponding to this. But you're not over there, so what are you there?
It's microwave.
Oh, Mike is the Malach Michael. And Gavi is the Malach Gavriel. Meaning to say,
And me?
Daniel as well, you're the one who's checking out and telling us all the Pesukim so we know them. Tehillim, just in case we forget over there. Running and returning to teach us the Pesuk, yeah? Is the psalmist, yeah? So in Olam Yetzirah, we're actually all Malachim. So why are we learning about the fact that they run and return? Because we're doing the same thing here. It's just that they know it and we don't know it.
I have an angel version of myself.
Yes. And he's a little bit more vigilant than you and fast moving. No. I'll put him into Jewish. What is it? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So like this. Because we're running and returning like those malachim. What is it like? You know, the first word of the Torah is Bereishit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Comes Rabbi Nachman to bring a Zohar from Tikuni Zohar, I believe it is. And it says that Bereishit is really a combination of two words. It's Roshe Bat. What does it mean? No. Roshe Bat, it's another combination. Roshe means head or heads in this case, but here it means the colors of the eye. Meaning that within the eye, you have the Roshe Bat and you have the Bat itself. You have the daughter of the eye, that's what they call the pupil, and then you have the layers of the eye. That the first word in the Torah means the eye. Bereishit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. It's funny how everybody's eyes are really open right now looking at it. What does it mean? It means that with the eye, Hashem created the world. What is one of the functions of the eye? It's constantly blinking. You don't even realize, but you're blinking constantly and you don't even realize. Why are you blinking? Because
because you need to constantly run and return.
Run and return.
Because if your eyes are like this all day,
then you're just running. So you got to close your eyes and return.
Yeah.
You got to run and return and
I
run
know
and
people
return.
sleep with
So when you
eyes
close your
open.
eyes, that means the moon. No?
Yeah.
So when you close your eyes, it means Emunah. And when you open your eyes, it means Torah. Very good.
So that's when you say Shema Yisrael.
So we're constantly going back and forth between running and returning.
Returning back to Hashem?
No, returning back to the mundane world.
To yourself,
Your normal conscious. Very good. That's called returning. Running means I run into Hashem. Okay?
towards Him and come back to yourself.
Yeah, and we're constantly doing this. And where is this symbolized by? How Hashem created the world with the eye. That you are like a living eyeball. You're constantly opening and closing, opening, closing, running and returning. Oh, and that's why the universe is constantly going here.
String theory, same thing to Shema Yisrael.
Yes, and when you say Shema Yisrael, we said many times before, very good. You have to close your eyes. Why? Because at that moment you need to hold on to Emunah. So now, where did Rabbi Nachman get this Torah from?
Oh, you just blew my freaking
Ze ani ladodi v'dodi li. That it says in the month of Elul, this was created. I am to my beloved is to me. And the very famous Rosh Tevot, first letters of the words, are Aleph Lamed Vav Lamed. It spells Elul. I am to my beloved is to me. What is ani ladodi? Ze bechinat ayel. This means that I am elevating to Hashem. I'm running to Shemayim, that there you are. Ani ledodi, v'dodi li. And my beloved is to me. Ze bechina v'nafik. This is the concept of descending. V'zeh sod kavanat ha'elu. And on a side note, Rabbi Nachman, this is the secret of all of the Arizal's intentions, kavanot, that he made, Kabbalistic intentions on Elul. Everything that I just taught you in this sweet snapshot. Run and return. To be an expert in running and returning. Zeh ikar kavodo. This is the essence of Hashem's kavod. Why is Hashem putting us through this? Why do we have to constantly go back and forth? Why do we have to be bipolar? Why do we have to run and return?
That's the function of the world.
Why?
Because that's how we grow.
You can come back from the darkness of each one.
Oh, because the greatest revelation of Hashem's light is that you shine it in places that it's not, seemingly. How do you do that? You have to go up and catch the light, then you have to go down and lose the light. You have to go up and catch the light, you have to go down. What is the whole concept of being Jewish?
Elevating sparks, elevating the world.
What does it mean to elevate the world? We think it's very beautiful, right? Tikkun olam, elevating the sparks. You know what it means? It means Hashem throws you down to very dark places and you have to find Hashem there. That you have to constantly find Hashem, and as soon as you do, Hashem sends you to another dark place. And you need to reveal Hashem there. And then he sends you to another dark place, and you need to reveal Hashem there. When you reveal Hashem, that's called the spark that's trapped. There's a teaching, a famous teaching in Kabbalah and Chassidut, that the land of Israel is going to spread all over the world, and the whole world will be called the land of Israel. How is that? Because it says that in the land of Israel, it's like you have a God. And out of the land of Israel, it's like you don't have a God. So any place that you find Hashem here, you turned it into Eretz Yisrael. Why were we sent out into exile? So we can show that in every place in the world, Hashem is there. That's the gold, silver, and jewelry. That's the gold, silver, and jewelry. That's why we're here. That we're supposed to be revealing Hashem in this place. And once we're done,
Wow.
Hashem brings us all back to the land of Israel, because we turn the whole world into the land of Israel.
So Shulchan Aruch really it's instructions on how to make diamonds, basically. Hashem takes a soul which is pure into this world, throws you into the darkness. But if you don't have the instruction manual to know how to make the diamonds from the coals, then you're like, damn, I'm bugging.
Right.
But if you know the way to make diamonds, you're gonna be cherry picking all day over there in that area.
Beautiful. You got it. This is the whole entire ikr. This is actually what Rav Natan Zel says in Torah Natan, what you just said. This is the whole reason we have the Shulchan Aruch. Because the person that doesn't know these things, he's fallen so low, he has no idea what to do.
Maybe that's why he's depressed, because all this time you're sitting in a diamond mine, but you think you're just,
You don't know what you're looking for.
yeah.
You don't know what
just
you're looking for. And that's the
career.
worst.
Yeah.
This is the essence of his kavod. Now, I want to tell you something interesting, something that I thought of. Elul is the month before Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Nachman says, my whole entire mission is Rosh Hashanah. But the only way to get to Rosh Hashanah is through Elul. And what is the entire ikr of Elul? Running and returning. Tshuva. To be able to know halicha, how to run and how to return. Now I want to tell you something amazing, something very interesting. Many people think when Rabbi Nachman says, come to Uman for Rosh Hashanah, that the entire thing that he does for you is only there. But half of the work is already accomplished by you getting there. Do you know why? Because you traveled to the tzaddik. Because you ran to the tzaddik. Because you had to go through ups and downs to get there.
So you're running, and when you come back,
You return. Because the whole entire effort of getting to the tzaddik is the avoda of Elul. It's tshuva. And then when you get there, it's Rosh Hashanah. But the only way to have Rosh Hashanah, that you have a new year, you have a new start, you have a new experience, you mamish have a tikkun of all of the challenges of your life, you have a remedy, you have a healing, you must first run and return, like Rabbi Nachman is teaching us in this Torah. Before you can experience the keter of Hashem, you must wait. You must do teshuvah. You must run and return. You must go up and go down. Like Rabbi Nachman says elsewhere, that it's going to feel like the week for you. But ultimately, if you keep going in your spiritual voda and you don't give up, and what does it mean very simply to be expert in running and returning? It means that when I'm running, I know that I haven't even scratched the surface yet. That means that when I feel high, when I feel good, when I feel happy, and I feel connected, I give it everything I have to get as much godliness as I can. But then once I fall, that I don't fall completely.
Do angels run?
They run and return.
But how are they returning if all they see is Hashem?
They're running and returning to do Hashem's mission, just like we are. We just don't know that we're
So
doing.
our returning is different than their returning?
It's very, very similar. We're running and returning. They're running and returning. They're running and returning to come down here and to go back up to Hashem. We're also running and returning to dark places and bringing it back up to Hashem. It's a parallel.
Well, so
situation.
we have a harder, in a way, job.
We have a much harder job. They don't have a Yitzhar. Okay. So what's the point here? The point here is that when you fall, know, okay, this is the Yerida Tzarich La'aliyah. This is the descent that's for the sake of an Aliyah. So no, hold on and don't let yourself fall anymore. Okay? The essence here, the ikr here is not to be running to Hashem. The ikr when you have fallen is that you hold on and you don't let go. The essence, as Rav Natan of Teshuvah, is not in the running, it's in the returning. You'll know how effective your running is by how you return.
Oh, also the teshuvah itself, that same thing has to come to, has to return to that actual scenario.
Very good. So this is the whole point, is that the reason why the Shulchan Aruch is so beneficial for you is because when you get back to the same situation, you succeed. Because the whole essence of Teshuvah is Hashem puts you back in the same spot again, and you succeed this time.
And all that time, you were actually running closer to Hashem, but now he wants to see how your return process is to continue running to him again.
Very good. I once heard, I'm not sure Lahavdi, I think it was maybe Mahatma Gandhi. I'm not even sure. I didn't even say his name right there.
What did you just say?
I'm uplifting it right now. Maybe it was some other somebody. He said like this: many people think freedom is leaving all your problems behind. But real freedom is when you go back and you're different.
Rambam also said that.
Oh, lifting it up. It's called tshuva. This is the essence of teshuva, that you have to go back to those dark places. And it's not a bad thing. It's because Hashem now believes you're capable of it. You're able to. And this is the essence of his kavod. And by the way, this is the reason why David is the Mashiach and not Yosef. Because Yosef represents the Or Yashar. He represents the direct light. He represents the light that goes from above to below. But what's the essence of David? The opposite. He's going all the way from the bottom, all the way back up. And what is the secret, says the Hasidic masters and the Kabbalists, that the light of David, the light of the returning light, the light of the Baal Tshuva, is actually rooted in a higher place than the light of the Tzaddik. That it returns even higher than the light of the Tzaddik comes down. But your ability as the Baal Tshuva to get all the way back up is to have the light of the Tzaddik in your life. And by doing that, you're able to run all the way back. And this is the way that we're so interconnected. And we'll end with this right here. And then Bezat Hashem will continue next week. The Pasuk says, and you honor Shabbat by refraining from what you normally do, right? This is where we learn that on Shabbat, we shouldn't do the same things that we do. And the Gemara comes out and says, it's a sort to speak about business. This is very simply. You shouldn't be talking about making deals on Shabbat. Don't talk about money, because that's the essence of what you do during the week. Rabbi Nachman says that when Mashiach comes, business is going to be extinguished, because business only comes from machloket, because business only comes when there's no peace. What's the essence of peace? Rabbi Nachman says, peace is when me and you have the same goal and we're both shooting for it. What's business? The seller wants something and the buyer wants something else. That's called war. So once Mashiach comes and there's no more war, there's no more business. What are you guys going to do then?
Return.
Return.
Thursday.
On Shabbat, there is none of this. Okay? You have to refrain from this. Lashon Rabim. But why does the Pasuk, Rabbi Nachman, point out, it says, Derachecha, return not from your way, your derech, but Derachecha, your ways. Plural. Why? Because it's saying, Ayo v'nafik. because it's including both running and returning, elevating and descending. Usheyesh lo elo hasheni habekiyut, because there's two types of darche, there's two types of ways, there's two types of expertise. Azayhu holech b'darche teshuva, and the person that he knows how to run and he knows how to return, that is tshuva. V'zoche lichvod Hashem, and he gets to experience the light of Hashem. Like it says, and you honor him from the action or refraining from your ways. Hainu, meaning meaning that you merit to the keter, you merit to the crown, you merit to the corona of kedusha, you merit to the holy COVID. Ki late kavod below kaf, because there is no kavod without the kaf. And like we said before, what's the concept of the kaf? The kaf represents the keter. And why is it start with a kaf, which is the essence of the letter? Because it is the gematria 20. How is that? Because the whole essence of keter is it starts at the top, it goes all the way to the bottom and returns all the way back up. How many sphirot do you have to go down? And how many sphirot do you have to go back up in order to traverse all of them?
10 and 10.
And what does that equal? 20. So in order for you to become a Baal Tshuva, you need to have the kaf. You need to know how to be an expert in running and returning. Then you have the kaf, then you have kavod, then you've done tshuva. Then Hashem literally lifts and extends his hand to you all the way to wherever you are, the kabbalah teshuvato, to receive you and to bring you back into his arms. So your effort is elu. Your effort is running and returning. And the main thing that we're learning from Rabbi Nachman is like this. You must know that wherever you are in your life, whether you're high or you're low, whether you've ascended to Shemayim, or whether you're made your bed in hell, Hashem is everywhere. Hashem is everywhere. And this is the ikr of hope. This is the essence of nechama, comfort. And this was the entire chiddush that Rabbi Nachman drove home. That even in Gehenna, Hashem's there also. Why not? Hashem's everywhere. How can you say he's not there? And Rabbi Nachman said that people say there's Olam Haba and there's Olam Hazeh, that there's the world to come and there's this world. Olam Haba, I understand. We're all looking forward to it. We're all very excited. Olam Hazeh, I don't see it anywhere because all I see is hell. But Hashem's got to be here also. Yeah, you think it's beautiful here? You think so?
That's because he's living in Olam Haba.
Beautiful. That's very good, Daniel. But there are times that it's not beautiful here. Yeah. My life sucks. There are times when it's not so peaceful at home. There are times when I'm not doing so well at work. There are times when I'm feeling pretty bad about myself. There are times where I'm wondering whether I'm strong enough to continue living. There are times that I wonder if I'm worth anything to begin with, or if I'm lovable, if anyone will ever love me.
That's running and return.
Oh, but it's running and returning. So now we're learning like this. Don't run away from the return. Stop, breathe.
And
Yeah, stop, drop, and eat Bodhi. Okay? Take a moment before you start to feel, start to speak. Shem, I feel bad right now. But I know that this is true. I know that this is going to help me to experience you at a greater way, that's what I'm asking for. Now, I don't see you here. I don't feel you here. But I know that you must be here. How can I access you when it's nighttime? Rabbi Nachman teaches us in the first Torah Likutey Moharan. Emunah. Emunah. The light of Emunah. I don't see that you're here, but I need to believe that you're here. How do I do that? You need to close your eyes to the world mamash. And you need to say, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hashem is one. By the way, just an interesting side note. I heard today from Rav Yitzchak Ginsburg something amazing. He said, he actually referenced Rabbi Nachman's Torah on the Seder. And Rabbi Nachman says that the one who gives over the story is like Avram Avinu, and the 4 sons are his children and grandchildren, that is Yitzchak, Esav, Yaakov, and Yishmael. So he says something amazing there. He says like this: the Arizal teaches that there are 7 encompassing souls, all encompassing souls. They're called the 7 shepherds of faith, like Rabbi Nachman calls them Moharan. They are Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, David. Okay. If you take all of these 7 souls, and they are representative of all the Jewish people, because they're the 7 encompassing souls. However, at the table, you don't just have them, which are corresponding to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov there, but you also have Esav and Yishmael. And we know that according to Kabbalah, 35 of the nations of the world, they come from Yishmael. And 35 of the nations of the world come from Esav. They represent the right and the left side of the klipot as well. Okay? That all 70 nations are corresponding to those 2. They're all encompassed within those 2. So everybody's sitting at the Pesach table. Who's at the Pesach table? Who's ready for Geula? Who's ready for Mashiach? Everybody's there. Now, Rav Ginsburg says, if you do some math, it's very interesting. You add the 7 souls of the 7 shepherds. You add Esav. You add Yishmael.
Meaning 70?
No, you add all their names. You take the name of Avraham. You add the gematria to that. He's a mathematician, so he's doing this stuff. Okay. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, David, Esav, Yishmael. That's everybody now. Okay. They're all sitting at the table. The number you're going to come out to is the same exact number as twice Shema Yisrael. Twice. For the Shema that you say out loud and the Shema that you say silently. Which
during the day and at night.
Or during the day and at night. And what's the essence of that? What is that to teach?
That's the essence of a Jew.
The essence of Emunah. That the whole concept of Shema is I close my eyes when I say it. The only way for me to understand how in the end we're going to see Hashem was everywhere. That he was in the Shoah, that he was in the Spanish Inquisition, that he was in the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, that he was in the Holocaust, that he was in our own personal Holocaust and our own personal suffering and our personal entrapment. How are we going to see that he's not just with the very holy people, but he's also with those who are struggling and suffering the most? And they're all sitting at the Pesach table together for Geula, for Mashiach, only by closing your eyes and saying Shema Yisrael, Shema Kem, Shema Echad. Okay? This is the lesson for us in our life. When you're high, open up your eyes and go look for Hashem. When you're feeling low, close your eyes and say Shema. Everybody have an amazing night. Bezat Hashem, we should all be baki and running and returning. Have an amazing, amazing rest of your Pesach, end of your Pesach. You have any questions? Shabbat Shalom. Yes. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, so we're going to get your statement in a second.
You weren't even here.
This is a question or a statement?
It's a question.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all, man. I'm not says. Just with your eyes, I'm not much.
Yeah, this is what we just talked about.
So it's connected.
Very connected. Very good. Any questions on the, is anybody there? Yeah, okay. You want to say your statement?
Yeah, I was actually thinking that the whole point for us being here is to go down in the dark to bring out the light. I was thinking maybe this is why this generation clings on to screens so much, because the screen is projecting light to us. And we said that what is this whole process that this is bouncing off our eye and the whole thing? That's one opinion. But maybe because there's so much light in that place, you can draw out from that light a certain, I don't know, you can hop something. Also, if the opposite is also true, you can do the biggest of errors with these things, you know?
Right.
But it's only for the sake of the opposite.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, beautiful. We're searching for the light, either on a television screen or
There's a bigger, like,
you're saying there's a
every
deeper
year
reason
there's
why we're
iPhone
doing
11, iPhone 12, but they're always updating or investing more in this Indian,
Right.
meaning in their version of light, versus the opposite of our version of light, which is the Torah.
Beautiful.
Just think about it, you could have everything here and here.
Right.
It's one thing, really.
Yeah.
But this is like
Easy access.
Yeah, easy access.
This one you have to work with.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Everybody have an amazing end to your Pesach, amazing Shabbat Shalom. Bezat Hashem will continue next week.
Also, this you can take to the bathroom. This you can't.
Oh, very good. Because this is real life. This is artificial life.
But I didn't know my sister was in your building, bro. Fuck, yeah.